Honorable colleagues, we are in prayers. Almighty God, creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our counsels and actions so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. Honorable colleagues, I've examined and approved the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 30th November 2023. Honorable colleagues, on a sad note, I announce the death of Mr. Anthony Oroafemi, SLA to the leader of the House, who passed away last night, and the leader, in view of that, is away to arrange for his for the transportation of the corpse to the mortuary, and he requests that we should please observe a minute silence for the repose of the soul of the departed. Any other announcements? No? Okay, please, shall we rise? May his soul rest in peace. Honorable colleagues, the only business of the day is presentation of 10 bills. I now invite the clerk to read their short titles.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Nigerian Paramilitary Services Trust Fund Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. National Out of School Vulnerable and Indigent Children Trust Fund Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. National Research Institute for Traditional Art, Culture and Medicine, Igouku, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal College of Entrepreneurship and Skills Acquisition, Ilao Rangoon, Osun State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Anatomy Act, Repeal and Enactment Bill 2023, first reading. Counterfeit and Fake Drugs on Wholesome Processed Foods, Miscellaneous Provisions Act, Repeal and Enactment, first reading. Institute of Physician Associates of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Colleges of Education Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria Repeal and Enactment Bill 2023, first reading. National Mass Transit Scheme Establishment Bill 2023, first reading.
Honorable colleagues, the first order of the day is resumption of debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 27,503,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,367,352,359,690 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,490,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 9,918,248,229,600 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 7,742,877,740 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2024, standing in the name of the Honorable Leader. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read for the first time on Wednesday, 29 November 2023. Today is the second allotted day. I now invite the leader to move that the debate do now resume. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Your Excellency, my distinguished honorable colleagues. I hereby move that the bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the sum total 27,503,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,376,352,359,690 only is for statutory transfers. 8,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 9,918,248,229,600 only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 7,742,842,877,740 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2014, the read second time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Any member who may wish to contribute to this debate can raise up his hand for recognition. I will start from our Amazon lady, Honorable Khalifat.
Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, my name is Kafilat Ogbara. I rise for and on behalf of my constituents in Koshofe Federal Constituency in Lagos State, the Center of Excellence. I rise this morning with enthusiasm and a sense of fulfillment when I listened to the budget estimate presentation by a father, a leader, and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I will term this budget presentation as the budget of the people, not because the president has termed it the renewed hope budget, but because from the presentation, the budget is centered on the people. It is people-oriented, it is people-centric, and of course, it is the citizens' budget. Because even in your own presentation, Mr. Speaker, you told us that there will be a General Assembly of the citizens of this great country. That has never happened before, for them to have an input into this budget eventually. So definitely, this is going to be the citizens' budget. I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this budget highlights the prominence in terms of security, defense and internal security, not just as a document, but indeed because this is the priority of majority of our brothers and sisters in this country today. The budget also highlights education. Education specifically, the president mentioned our children. Our children are not just the foundation of this nation, but they are our future. He also specifically mentioned student loans. Our youths, they are not just our today, but our tomorrow. This is a budget, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, that recognizes in clear terms that human capital development is the benchmark for a national development. I am saying here today that it's not the budget that speaks to this. It is the presenter of the budget. Because the presenter of the budget, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that we know from Lagos State, has invested all his life developing people. So this is the speaker that is telling us that human capital development is the benchmark for national development. So I'm not surprised that the budget depicts the mover of this, presentation. I also want to say that the budget highlights the need for public-private partnership for, high capital infrastructure. And this is a budget that also recognizes that revenue optimization and expenditure efficiency is very critical. This was where the budget presentation spoke to value for money, transparency, and accountability. I don't want to say everything because I know that a lot of my colleagues will also contribute to other aspects of the budget. But I want to summarize by saying, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, that we all should play our role, play our part as the people's representatives, because this hallowed chamber is Nigeria. We all represent all the communities all over the country. This is where Nigeria resides. The nation looks up to us. It is a collective responsibility. And we also want to implore Nigerians that government cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. We need all Nigerians to support implementation of budgets, supervise implementation of budgets in their various constituencies. Mr. President cannot be in Zamfara. He cannot be in Kaduna. He cannot be in Bauchi. He cannot be in Ogun State. We as Nigerians must supervise and manage whatever projects that are put in our constituencies. And of course, as the people's representatives, we have a role to play in our oversight functions by ensuring that whatever money is allocated to any MDA is judiciously implemented. Mr. Speaker, for Nigeria to get to her destination, it is a collective responsibility. For Nigeria to get to her destination, it is a joint task. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Khalifat. I would want to recognize another Amazon, Speaker. Honorable Khadija Bukar, for her own comments.
I want to be ruling. Maybe you don't understand how hungry I am.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Khadija Waziri Bukar Ibrahim. I represent Damaturu Tarmua Gujibagulani Federal Constituency of Yobe State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this indeed is a commendable budget. I want to first and foremost commend the enthusiasm of Mr. President for presenting a budget of renewed hope, a budget which will go further than ever before in cementing microeconomic stability, reducing deficit, increasing capital spending, and allocation to reflect the 8 priority areas of the administration. Mr. Speaker, defense and security are given priority accorded top priority due to the fact that everybody is aware of the insecurity that is facing us, unfortunately, in this country. So it is quite adequate that defense and security need to be rejigged and more monies need to be allocated in order to see to the end of this menace. Our security agencies must do more to safeguard the lives and properties of Nigerians across the country. And also, on the issue of subsidy removal, I think more needs to be done to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. Today, a monthly salary does not allow you to commute between your workplace and your home without you borrowing money from your neighbor or a friend in order to substitute your monthly salary. So at the end of the month, everybody is having to pay loans owed them. So therefore, we need to do more about this subsidy removal in order to alleviate the sufferings of our fellow Nigerians who we represent dearly here. On the issue of education, our president was very, very particular about education and placing a lot of revenue monies into education. I think education is the bedrock of any society to succeed. So therefore, I think it's very important, and the monies that have been allocated there are very adequate, and I hope it goes a long way in seeing and curbing the menaces of university strikes and so on and so forth, so that lecturers are paid adequately in order to see to it.
Honorable
that,
Shetima, Honorable Talba, your sister from Borno is talking.
Yobe.
Eh?
Yobe. Same. They were the same. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we need to make sure that the living conditions of our lecturers and our teachers are improved so that they can give good, reliable, and adequate teaching to our youths and our children. Also, as a parliament, the budget has been presented. We hope that 90 to 100% implementation will ensue, and we as parliamentarians should take charge with the oversight that we have been placed to do in the parliament in order to ensure that the renewed hope agenda budget of Mr. President is implemented to the letter. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for yielding the floor to me.
Thank you, Honorable Khadija. Let me recognize Honorable Jambo.
Thank you very much, my very distinguished Honorable Speaker, my colleagues. My name is Clement Jimbo. I represent the people of Abak, Etmekbu, and Ika Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, the budget for 2024 was presented to the Alo Chamber by the executive. I have gone through the snippets of the budget. Mr. Speaker, the budget is prepared based on the National Development Plan of 2021 to 2025, as well as medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper 2024 to 2026. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the body of the laws of this nation, particularly in 1993, there is an act of this parliament that put to bed the National Planning Commission of 1993. Mr. Speaker, it is in my considered opinion that a budget of this nature to renew the hope of Nigerians should equally renew the hope of National Planning Commission. I am of the opinion that that National Planning Commission should be resuscitated and put to effective use going forward, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. If you look at the objective of this commission, that is an act of the parliament, it is basically to determine and advise on policies that will best promote national unity and integration and sustain the Nigerian nation. It is equally to ensure social justice and human welfare at all levels of the Nigerian society. Mr. Speaker, this all-important commission should not be left to rust. That is my number one point. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the benchmark, the oil benchmark for the budget estimate, if you look at in 2024, the executive has benchmarked oil production at 1.72 million per barrel. In 2025 at 1.8 million per barrel, and in 2026 at 1.81 million per barrel. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at what the OPEC said just this June 2023, due to our inability as a nation to meet up our OPEC quota, the 2023 OPEC quota was reduced from 1.7 million per barrel to about 1.3 million per barrel. And that is due to the fact, like I said, we've not been able to meet our OPEC quota. And going forward, in order for us to ramp up our oil production, the current security protection of our oil infrastructure that is assigned to just one security agency by the national NNPCL to Tantita Nigeria Limited, it is in my opinion that it should be opened up to other ex-agitators in the industry, in the Niger Delta, to equally take charge of their respective domain by making sure any oil theft that is perceived to take place in this domain is curtailed, and that will help to ramp up our oil production to at least 1.9 million barrels per day. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, if you look at the total projected revenue for this budget that is pegged at 26.62 trillion naira, that is commendable, especially if you look at what the revenue stood in 2023, that is 11.86 trillion. The executive is highly commendable in this respect. But going forward, to ramp up our revenue, I've highlighted just one critical area that the executive will equally need to look into. If you look at the law that brought to bed the electronic money transfer levies, it is projected to about 3.66 trillion naira. And the cap is for those that transfer money from 10,000 naira and above. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is my considered opinion that if the base is lowered to 5,000 naira, it will open up more people to contribute to this pool, which the executive can equally leverage on to fund our infrastructural gap. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the critical sector allocation, like education, education plays a key role in any nation that wants to go far on this aid. The executive has done well by allocating 7.9% of the total budget to education. It is an increase from what was done in 2023, from 7% to 7.9%. But, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the advice that was given to us by the United Nations about a year ago in 2022, Nigeria was seriously advised that we should increase our budgetary provision for our education to at least 20%. There was a reason. This was to help Nigeria achieve the global agenda for universal inclusion and equitable basic education for all school-age children by 2030. Mr. Speaker, if this is the yearnings of Nigerians and the yearnings of this House, we should equally appeal to the executive that the budgetary provision for our educational sector should be increased to at least 12.5%. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, looking at the total budget projection, I am of the opinion that it will well answer the many challenges and many problems that are currently bedeviling this nation, and we Nigerians are equally looking up to us to make sure we synergize with the executive to bring to bed, indeed, the renewed hope for Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Jimbo. Please, other speakers should please take note that today is Friday. We're very limited time. We'll only allocate a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker so that we give as many as possible the opportunity to speak. But before I yield the floor to the next speaker, I want to ask Honorable Buma whether she has crossed the line so that I can formally make an announcement and celebrate after this debate whether she has crossed the line from PDP to APC, because I can see that the traditional side where APC strongmen are used to sit is where she is occupying today. Honorable Buma, can I make the announcement? You know, that side is APC PDP, but this one is APC. Thank you, Honorable Victor. Please, you have the floor.
Honorable Speaker, my respected colleagues, my name is Honorable Victor Nwokolo, member representing Eka Northeast, Eka South African constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending you for the innovations you have introduced in this new budget, the budget of 2024. And I must commend other speakers who have spoken well about the increment in terms of education and defense. But let me say something here. There's a missing gap in the budget. When you are talking about security, you can't have effective security when you have not provided sufficiently for the power sector. Without power, you cannot get 100% security. Without power, no amount of CCTV you mount in our cities and strategic points that will make it to function. Without power, the issue of unemployment remains an issue that you are avoiding, but to keep confronting us daily. Power gives us opportunity to have more citizens to be employed. The man having a barbering salon, the man doing pure water cannot afford the price of diesel as of today, cannot afford the price of fuel, whichever one they use. There are a lot of problems in the power sector which I thought that the executive would have addressed. The issue every day of no power supply, discos are complaining. I also know even if there is an attempt to make provisions for more transformers, but transformers are not the only thing that the power sector requires. When you look at the power sectors today, the government, the federal government of Nigeria are not able to pay their own side, to keep their own side of the bargain of the sales that the BP undertook to sell off our investments in the discos. There's also a problem between the GENCOs and the transmissions. There's provisions for the power generation, but they are unable to transmit because the lines are not there to carry the power to the distribution companies. Having said this, and with the time limits, Mr. Speaker, you have said, it is necessary subsequently, maybe in the supplementary budget, a very good step should be taken to address the issue of power. Because as of today, police, government institutions, including the defense, army, navy, and all, they do not pay NEPA bills. And without this, and government is not making enough provisions as to a way of funding the discourse, I don't think we're addressing the issue of security properly. What I've said in a nutshell is that to address the issue of insecurity, we must make reasonable provisions for the power sector, because power has a multiplier effect on every facet of the economy. I so submit, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Let me recognize the leader of the ABGA in the House, Honorable Pascal.
Check. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity. I am Right Honorable Pascal Abodike. I represent the Ihala Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, looking at the budget of 2024 as presented by Mr. President, the onus lie on us, the lawmakers, to look at the budget and scrutinize it, to give the best for our people, our various constituencies, 360 constituencies of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, looking at the budget and looking at the budget vis-a-vis Nigerian challenges, we can at least know that among the challenges of this country today, insecurity is one of the most things that is challenging the unity, peace, and progress of this country. Mr. Speaker, the people of Ihala Federal Constituency have submitted their charter of demand through me, who is their representative, to know why debating on the principles of this budget, I should please present their matter as regards insecurity that is bedeviling us. Please, the major part of this budget 2024 is that we should treat the problem of insecurity in Nigeria, among other infrastructures our people have been yearning for. It is our duty, collective responsibility, through our interaction with NDAs, to look at the budget through various committees and scrutinize it. But as we are doing that, the major area, apart from infrastructural development we are looking for, insecurity should be dealt with while looking at the budget. Mr. Speaker, let me not take most of our time. I am very much in support that this 2024 appropriation should be passed into law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Leader, is your throat okay now? Because Alanda, you almost lost your voice, you and Alima Daki, so that we can bring some syrup for you, because we need you to talk. Eh? Yeah, okay. We'll call you later. Honorable George, Alanda, you have a miracle cough syrup. Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Inua.
Mr. Speaker, I was whispering to the leader that today, starting with our female colleagues, maybe today you are coming from the other room. I am Right Honorable Inua Garba.
You are on your own. Eh?
I am Right Honorable Inua Garba, member representing the good people of Yamatu Federal Constituency from Gombe State, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, budgetary scrutiny is one of the basic reasons why we are all here. as legislators, the representatives of Nigerians. While, by the grace of God, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, have presented the budget to the National Assembly, then we are saddled now with the responsibility of scrutinizing the budget and passing it into bill.
Honorable Osby, can you approach the chair,
and
please?
equally going for an oversight to making sure that the budget is diligently translated into what were passed in these chambers. Mr. Speaker, I know His Excellency the President is always making reference to what he has done in Lagos State, which is in the forefront of his campaign strategy. So I want to urge both the President and the government in power to make sure that the issue of security is not only paramount, but should be dealt with all seriousness and commitment. Because without security, there will not be anything meaningful that will happen in any country. I am from the Northeast Geopolitical Zone, Mr. Speaker, one of the most affected areas that suffers the negative effect of insecurity for the past many years. So I want the government, through His Excellency the President, to make sure that when this budget is passed, these regions, Northeast Geopolitical Zone, Northwest, Southeast, and all other regions should have a significant amount of not only money but attention, so that the issue of insecurity will become thing of a past, so that the socio-economic development of Nigeria will reflect the yearning and aspirations of not only the government but the entire people of this country. Mr. Speaker, lastly, apart from the issue of insecurity, there is key watchwords I want the government to put in the forefront of its strategy. That is equity, fairness, and justice. Without these three key fundamental issues in governance, there will not be trust, there will not be understanding, and there will not be progress. I want to stop at thanking the Speaker for giving me this opportunity to say a word as regards to this 2024 appropriation proposal to this hallowed chamber. Thank you very much.
Order, order please, order.
Thank you,
Order
Honorable
in the
Inouye.
House.
Honorable Halims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Abdullah Ibrahim Halims. I am from Kogi State, and I represent the good people of Ankpa, Omala, Longaboro Federal Constituency. I am from Kogi State. This morning, I rise to give my voice, a voice of commendation indeed, to the presentation of our budget 2024 by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As you are all aware,
Order.
as
Ginger.
you are all aware,
Kelechi, look forward.
this budget
Order, please. Order.
please.
Order.
As you are all aware, this budget 2024 is prepared against the backdrop of global and local economic environment. You are aware that this budget is intended to solve the myriad of problems as it exists right in our country today. We are aware that several volume of money is allocated for expenditure as a statement. And you are aware that yes, whatever volume is allocated, the effectiveness of the budget is dependent on implementation. Agriculture is properly funded, education properly funded, security, social security taken care of in the budget, agriculture, clean economy, all are properly funded. And you are aware that no matter the volume of money in the budget, the proper implementation, execution, supervision is entirely the responsibility.
Engineer Munir,
It's entirely the responsibility.
please can you stand up for recognition? Thank you so much.
It's entirely the responsibility
You're welcome.
of this hallowed chamber when it comes to oversight function. I urge all members of this assembly to cooperate with the executive arm of government to bring dividends of democracy to our good people and to ensure that, yes, the economic growth as specified in the budget of 3% and bringing inflation down from 21% is achieved for the growth of our economy. I urge all members to support in the passage of this very important bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Okay, let me recognize leader. I will come to all of you, please don't worry. We will identify each and every one of you in due course. Honorable George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable George Ibezimako Ozodinobi. I represent the good people of Anocha, Dunukofia, Njikoka Federal Constituency. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, due to your grace, I was among the people that sat in the front row. So I watched, as a principal officer, I watched Mr. President closely.
Honorable colleagues, order please. Order. Order please.
He spoke, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, the President spoke so eloquently. He spoke so eloquently that day with confidence. My worry in all his budget estimate presentation, he named budget of renewed hope, was the area of revenue, expected revenue, the revenue that the country is expecting, the estimated revenue of 18 trillion. 18 trillion.
My daddy.
I have, Mr. Speaker, since that day been inundated by my former colleagues in business world who are predominantly importers. They are saying this revenue of 18 trillion. I hope that I will not sit here and allow the custom and exercise to start taxing them so astronomically at the port. That is not why I was elected. My people are predominantly traders, importers. They are saying that this 18 trillion revenue estimate is probably targeted at them, at the port. And the level of hunger in this country today, Mr. Speaker, we are pleading that this 18 trillion estimated revenue in this budget, let the renewed hope by this time next year, let it not be a renewed hopelessness. But Mr. Speaker, I want to thank your wisdom to have prepared the mind of this assembly by the one-day retreat we had with the chairman and the deputy chairman of this great assembly. You did it as if you saw tomorrow, because I see this budget estimate that came late as a landmine for parliamentarians. It's supposed to have been presented 2 months back. I urge our colleagues to please take this budget very seriously, to work 24/7 in order to beat this landmine from the executive. Because if we don't finish this bill before the end of the year, the executive will blame us that we are the people that delayed them not to start from day one next year. So I plead with all of us, please, to work and be serious in this work. I think I'll rest my case, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, coming from the minority majority in this house. Thank you.
That's a beautiful one, Honorable George, and I'm happy that your voice is so clear, very clear and eloquent. I hope all those on the minority side will be able to talk with this kind of eloquence and precision. God bless you. Thank you so much, our honorable colleague from Rivers, the Amazon.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. I am Blessing Chigeru Amade, representing the good people of Port Harcourt, Rivers State, and Ikwere Woman. This is the budget of hope as expressed by Mr. President, and I congratulate him for this. He has succeeded in recognizing that Nigerians are angry, that Nigerians are hungry, and he has done the needful by presenting this hope-raising budget. However, it is said that to whom much is given, much is desired. It then means that we, as legislators, who must do our work, particularly our oversight functions, and make sure that the agencies abide by the provisions and the execution of the provisions of the budget. This means that if we can improve in what we have seen, particularly during the investigative session when we were now interfacing with the agencies, we discovered a lot of things. And now that the budget is here in black and white, we should confront them and ensure that they do the needful. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. I don't know, Honorable Enolen, do you want to temporarily occupy the leadership position of the majority? Just to test as an acting? No, please, you can come and taste it a little. It's so sweet, oh. I don't like seeing you sitting at the back. Eh? Yes, Honorable. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for yielding the floor to me. Agbedi Yeitiemene Frederick is my name. I represent Sakbama Ikedema Federal Constituency. Izankeme, I'm from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this budget is christened Budget of Hope. And I'm happy to be associated with Budget of Hope because it's only hope that keeps people going. And so, once the word hope is used, even the skeptics will begin to think that tomorrow will be good for us. And so, I align with that. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to make particular reference to aspect of transportation. Mr. Speaker, I come from a majorly riverine area. And across Nigeria, from the north to the south, there are areas that people still go through water transportation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we appear to be the most neglected, even in this budget. Mr. Speaker, since the removal of fuel subsidy, life has been extremely difficult for those of us who come from the riverine areas of this country, because our cost of going to our communities, cost of transportation of goods and services have gone 3-4 times more than what it takes to transport such services within motorable areas of Nigeria. And no reference, Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you that no reference is being made as to how to alleviate this hardship that the people from the riverine areas are going through. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we appear to be like people who are not part of the Nigerian budget. We appear to look like a people who are not considered any time the Nigerian nation shares the goodies of this country. And we are troubled. Mr. Speaker, let me give you an example. Today, in any way you want to travel, our roads are bad. Fuel is very, very expensive. And the cheapest means of transportation is the rail line, Mr. Speaker. I can give you an example that from the southeast and the south-south, if you take the rail line from Warri, which is the only surviving rail line to Kogi State, you cannot access Abuja except by road. And the cost of traveling by rail from Delta State to Kogi is far less than the cost of traveling from
Honorable Faleke, please can you approach the chair just for a minute,
Abuja,
please?
which puts the people into further hardship, Mr. Speaker. And these are some quick wins that this government need to attend to. That if a greater population of Nigerians, if the people who need our help traveling by rail can be connected from Kogi State to Abuja, it will alleviate the sufferings of so many people. And so I thought that this budget will be looking at such quick wins that will reduce the pressure on the people
Honorable colleagues.
represent. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, anytime we are talking about transportation, we don't discuss the riverine. And so we are left in the hands of private transporters who charge whatever they feel that is good for their business. And so goods and services are so expensive, Mr. Speaker. I want to use this opportunity to urge the National Assembly that in considering this budget, take these issues into consideration so that you will be able to attend to the needs of our constituents who are suffering hardship because of lack of attention from the federal budget. Mr. Speaker, let me also give you an example. In Bayelsa State, where I comes from.
Honorable Badao, you are not in Kano State House of Assembly. Can you sit down properly?
Mr. Speaker, in Bayelsa State, where I come from.
Well, you are under the protection of Honorable Alima Daki. I have withdrawn my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Bayelsa State, where I come from, the 3 senatorial roads are federal roads. But it will surprise you that it's the state government that is constructing those roads. Why is the state government constructing those roads? Because the state government realized that that is the only way life can be made easier for the people to communicate into their communities. And in this budget, while Mr. President had talked about working, partnering with subnationals, such projects that roads that are federal roads are not considered in this budget. And so, of course, we still not find a space in this budget. And so, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot that we need to do in this budget in fine-tuning it to connect with our federal constituencies, to connect with the downtrodden, to connect the people who hardship is biting on. And I think that Mr. Speaker will lead the House to ensure that succor is brought to our constituents who expect that we will give them effective representation and attract dividends of democracy to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Chawai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mukhtar Zakari Chawai. I represent Kauru Federal Constituency of Kaduna State. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by commending Mr. President for presenting this budget of renewed hope. Mr. Speaker, defense and internal security has an accumulated allocation of about 3.2 trillion, which sees a remarkable increase from previous allocation. Mr. Speaker, this defense allocation has a positive impact in my constituency and the southern part of Kaduna State, which is bedeviled by insecurity. I believe the implementation of this allocation will help in sustaining and motivating security personnel in that part of the state. The Budget Minister, Mr. Speaker, in his analysis, has stated that the Power Ministry, Transport, Water Resources, Works, Aviation and Housing have a consolidated allocation of about 1.3 trillion. He also confirmed that this is a modest allocation and that Mr. President has given marching orders to all the ministries to ensure that there is private sector involvement so that there will be growth in all these sectors instead of over-reliance on only the budget. Mr. Speaker, private sector involvement is only possible in a secured nation. And I'm glad security is being given the required allocation to ensure that the nation is quite secured. The solid mineral sector, in a bid to drive or grow our non-oil revenue, the solid mineral sector is a very important sector that needs to be given priority. Mr. President,
order, please, order.
Stated that this is a very important sector. It is a sector that is going to be revamped, and so much is going to be done in this sector so that we will grow our non-oil revenue. This can only be achieved through private sector investment as well. With the adequate private sector investment in our solid mineral sector, I believe we'll be able to grow our non-oil revenue. Mr. Speaker, we are still short of the 10% Maputo declaration when it comes to the agri expenditure allocation. The Maputo declaration recommends a 10% agricultural sector contribution to the budget proposal so that there will be food security in the country. We are currently a little under 3% when it comes to that contribution. I believe the only other avenue for us to ensure food security and the agri sector is ably commended or ably catered for is through development partners. So I call on the government to ensure that development partners are involved in the development of our agri sector so as we can guarantee food security in this country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, our non-debt recurrent is 9.9 trillion, which is about 36% contribution. Yes, it is slightly lower than the previous year's contribution, probably by about 3%, but it is still a huge number. I believe for us to ensure that this nation operates at an optimal position, our recurrent expenditure needs to go down drastically. And the only way to achieve that is by adopting recommendations that have earlier been done or made. I believe if these recommendations are looked at, even if we don't adopt all of them at once, but we do them at a gradual level, I believe we will reduce our recurrent expenditure and the nation's budget will operate at an optimal level. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. Honorable Ginger, after you, your colleague at the back should take over.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Honorable Speaker, very dear colleagues. My name is Ginger Obinna Onwusibe. I represent the people of Isialangwa North, Isialangwa South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am an Ongwa man from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending the leadership for the accelerated hearing being given to this appropriation bill. A few days ago, Mr. President came here and laid this bill before the National Assembly. We cannot overemphasize the importance of this budget to Nigerians. And that is why I think we are sitting today, which is a Friday. I want to, first of all, adopt what my dear colleague said here on the issues concerning education. To say that from what is presented before us, the education sector is not appropriately accommodated based on the UNESCO recommendations of 26%. So I want to support what he has said, that we look into the provisions made for the education sector and see a way of upgrading it. Let me also speak particularly to the health sector of our nation. Health, they say, is wealth, and we cannot overemphasize the importance of health.
Honorable colleagues.
Despite the central role.
Order, please. Order.
In the economy of our country, the health sector got in 2024 1.33 trillion, or 5% is being proposed. This is not enough by my own thinking for the health sector. If we even consider what coronavirus did to this country a few years ago, we should make adequate provisions for the health sector. Again, the 1999 Constitution as amended provided for federal character principles. And these federal character principles means that all the geopolitical zones should be treated equally. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, we from the southeastern part of this country, we cannot continue to shout marginalization all the time and nobody listens to us. I want to tell you that there is no motorable federal road in the southeast. No motorable federal road in Abia State where we come from. So I want to say and suggest that in the allocation of values, in the allocation of these values we are doing today, we should consider the southeastern part of this country and allocate more resources to its infrastructural development so that our people can feel to be part and parcel of this country. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, these are the few things I want to contribute in this budget. Thank you very much.
No, you said after.
Thank you, Honorable. Please, you can go ahead.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker and fellow colleagues. My name is Honorable Engineer Dominic Ifeanyi. I speak for Agwata Federal Constituency. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending you on
Order, please. Order.
Let me start by commending our able speaker on the wonderful speech you made that complemented the very eloquent presentation of the budget by our president. This budget wouldn't have, the theme of this budget wouldn't have come at a better time.
Honorable colleagues, order please. Order.
Budget of renewed hope. I tell you honestly, the hope of Nigerians need to be renewed more than ever than now. A quantum portion of this budget or revenue is expected to be derived from tax. And I tell you honestly, I'm coming from the private sector. A lot of Nigerians evade tax, not because they wouldn't want to pay tax. If you go to the UK, the VAT, in the UK they charge 20% VAT. A lot of us travel to London and to UK, and we pay it happily. Because when you are in the UK, especially London, you see how easy it is for you to commute from one place to the other. But here, people don't want to pay tax. But I tell you honestly, if this budget is effectively implemented, the hope of Nigerians will be able to regain their confidence in the federal government, and everybody will want to pay tax. Secondly, I'm asking all our colleagues for us to be committed. Let us put on our forensic eyes as we start engaging with MDS, especially the security agencies. It's not enough to allocate so much fund to the security agencies and we don't see any results coming out of it. I'm also lending my voice to people who have asked that the revenue on education be increased, because if you open the doors of education, you shut the doors of prison. A lot of insecurity we have in this country is because of unemployment. I remember when I was campaigning in my federal constituency, I wept when a lot of people who follow me to say, honorable. Many of them are graduates, but they don't have jobs. A lot of people that get involved in kidnapping is because they don't have jobs. I believe strongly that if the private sectors are strengthened, if the hope of Nigerians, especially the private sector, it is the private sector that drives the economy. It is the private sector that creates employment, not even the public sector. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm asking all of us to be committed. Let us bring out time. Let us put on our forensic eyes as we start engaging with the MDS, so they'll be able to ensure that whatever they have allocated are going to be meaningfully and effectively implemented in the budget. Thank you.
Please, is that Honorable Cyril Hart at the back? Please, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Hart Cyril Godwin, representing the fabulous people of Boni Degema Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from River State. The budget of renewed hope As a Christian, we are saved by hope. And hope that is seen, the Bible says, is not hope. The renewed hope agenda, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, is going to be a reality when this House begin to take their work seriously, especially in the area of oversight. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I've looked at revenue projection for this particular budget. 18 trillion naira, Mr. Speaker. 45% of that amount will be coming from oil. I come from a place where when oil was first discovered in Loibri in 1956, and Nigeria was particular about evacuating that oil for export, and they came to my place. The first crude oil export terminal was built in Bonny, where I come from. So I know crude, so I can tell you about crude. Mr. Speaker, there's a wrong narrative outside which I want to share with us. Today we have declared war on oil theft. That is the popular thing we know. That is what I call the Andrews opinion. It is unspoken, it is unheard of. Mr. Speaker, the Andrews opinion in the oil sector is that in the past 10 years, the multinationals have refused to carry out any critical investment in oil production in Nigeria. 10 years of non-investment to produce oil is part of the reason we have this decline. Today we have an ambitious projection of about 1.7 million barrels of crude per day. It is over-ambitious, Mr. Speaker, because if you look at the NNPCL fact sheet, we are doing 1.350 million barrels per day. Whatever you see again is condensate. So to project that we are going to do 1.7 beginning from January is really unrealistic, Mr. Speaker. What must we do for us to have 1.7 million barrels per crude and million barrels per day per crude? Mr. Speaker, your colleagues, critical investment to ramp up oil production is the way to go. Critical investment by the multinationals to ramp up oil production is the way to go. We have declared oil theft, fight against oil theft, since we resumed from this assembly. What have we achieved with that? I will tell us. 100,000 barrels per day is the success story of that action. 100,000 barrels per day. That is what we have pushed by way of that fight. The main loss is what I want us to look at. Lack of investment by the multinationals in the past 10 years. Today we are trying to securitize NLNG. I come from where I have an LNG. NLNG success story stands at 50% production capacity. The story you hear about LNG is 50% production capacity. Imagine if LNG was doing 90% production. Imagine LNG was doing 100% production. Nigeria will not be looking for foreign exchange. So what simply means is that we need...
Honorable Cyril, can you please quickly summarize? Others are waiting.
Let me summarize. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The crux of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is that we need these oil revenues for us to divest into other sectors. You look at agriculture today.
Honorable Rais.
The non-oil sector, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Rais, do not distract the Speaker.
The story in agriculture can only happen when we begin to divest oil revenue to have safe farms and safe schools, particularly in the north. I will stop here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Cyril. Please, you can also approach the chair. You can approach the chair, Honorable Cyril. The next person, Honorable Engineer Munir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Ahmed Munir. I represent the good people of Lere Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Kaduna State. I would love that my honorable colleagues and the good people of Nigeria, let's put everything into context. Our budget is approximately for about 26.7 trillion naira. From the outside, it looks like a colossal amount. If you were to redistribute this money into about 260 million Nigerians, everybody is just going to get a sum of 100,000 naira. So the point of a budget is not the money in itself, but where is it going to be directed to in a transparent manner that will stimulate the economy. So our mission, the key word is integration. Each sector needs each other, whether we're working from various committees in the House or from various MDAs within the government. In commerce, won't be successful trade and investment if our ports and harbors are taking donkey weeks to clear perishable products. Commerce won't be in effect if we cannot have good roads through our Ministry of Works, working with our Committee of Works here in the House, to bring out our agricultural products from the farm. Agricultural products from the farm can't reach their intended destination if the railways and our roads are not in order. Transportation is extremely key. Our products will keep on being on the rise if corruption is not being put in check. Because for every bribe that is being paid in a checkpoint or at the ports is being transferred ultimately to the Nigerians, to the consumers. So integration, our success depends on each and every one of us working together. So that is the key point that I would like to reiterate, that it's not the budget in itself that is important, but how we apply it here. And the House, the National Assembly, in effect, is the bastion to ensure that it is done. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Osby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, my name is Honorable Gono Ziribo. I'm from Imo State. I represent the good people of Unkwere, Isu, Wangele, and Njaba Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, today I decided to stay with the elders. I'm staying in the elders' corner. You know, Mr. Speaker.
And elders from the majority party, of course. Eh? You are blessed already.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, this is an exit row. So if he is here, he should be conscious that he's
iron
exit.
sharpeneth
I hope it will be permanent.
So men shall sharpen men. So today with the elders, I believe I'm going to speak as an elder. Mr. Speaker, I bring you greetings from my constituents and my people of Niger Delta. They say I shall appreciate you on the speech you made during the presidential budget presentation. Mr. Speaker, the House of Representatives have been blessed. I was part of the night assembly. The then speaker, immediate past speaker, I was like you. Today, you are showing all the stuff you are made of. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we want to also commend the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with the budget presentation he did. He shows that Nigeria is in the course of recovery. I've heard my colleague has had a speech before to say that Port Harcourt refinery, as we are told, will be on by December. Warri will come by first half of next year, and by December, they say Kaduna will start. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming up to lay my views on the budget presentation we have before us. One of the major components of that budget is that we expect that oil production daily will be about 1.7 million barrels. Mr. Speaker, that will be achievable if we continue with what is happening around the Niger Delta Ministry and the Presidential Amnesty Program of the Niger Delta region. Mr. Speaker, you believe with me, for some time now we have had peace within and around the Niger Delta region. It's just because of the impact of the Presidential Amnesty that is happening around the Niger Delta region with the ex-agitators. Nobody is talking about vandalization and blowing up of oil pipeline. And with that, Mr. Speaker, if we can sustain it in this country, we will do better than what we are doing. And we even surpass the 1.7 million expectation in production of oil barrel. But Mr. Speaker, I want to lay my voice on the funding of that presidential mercy program because of the new scheme they have introduced, which they call cooperative among the presidential mercy program. You believe with me, Mr. Speaker, the disarmament have been done. The integration have been done. Most of them have gone to training. Some of them today, Mr. Speaker, are pilots. They've been trained in various skills. So today now we have the cooperative society among the program the presidential mercy are doing. So I call Mr. Speaker and this Honorable House that we look at it and do well to improve the funding of that program. Because this cooperative, Mr. Speaker, since it was introduced since last 2 years, they've not received other funding than the normal funding they have been receiving since 2011 that program was instituted. Mr. Speaker, that cooperative is acquiring the people that have gone through the training in making them sustainable in what they have learned. The people that have gone into private skills, the people that have gone to different skills, they need these to be sustained for them to carry on. With this, Mr. Speaker, that is the message for my people from Niger Delta Region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Osby. Honorable Alamadaki, are you sure your throat is cleared? You can be able to talk clearly.
Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Aliyu Sanu Madaki. I represent the Ala Federal constituency of Zaria State. Sorry, of Kano.
God bless you. God bless you. Don't change anything. Just maintain it as it is. Thank you very much.
Of Kano State. Zaria is an old town without state. I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Speaker, I want to start with the name of the budget. The budget has been named Renewed Hope. Let me first of all say, I believe this budget is very realistic and is going to be very impactful. And most of the estimates done for the budget are conservative. If you look at the oil price, which was placed at 77.6, which is very conservative if you compare what is the current price as at today. And then if you look at the crude Naira crude oil production, which was placed at 1.78, which I believe we can do much more. But that was done so that we don't have any shortfall in our expected revenue, which I believe is very, very important. The total budget estimate was 27.5 trillion, which is 7 trillion more than the previous budget. This was done so that within the shortest possible time, Nigeria will feel the impact of the current budget, which I believe is very important. If you look at what is happening in the country, we know hunger is everywhere, we know insecurity is everywhere, and that is why I am glad that emphasis was given to security, job creation, and poverty reduction. But, Mr. Speaker, if I may be asked to give a name for this budget, I would say let us change the name Renewed Hope. Because when you said Renewed Hope, what are you renewing it to? To be candid, in the last 8 years, if we would say the truth to ourselves, there was nothing for us to be hopeful about. So this budget should be tagged budget of hope. Budget of hope, but forget about the other word, renewal. Mr. Speaker, what is another important aspect in this budget is the issue of student loan.
Point of order.
Where 50 billion.
Point of order.
50 billion was earmarked. Don't let me. 50 billion was earmarked for the student loan, which I believe is a very important policy. Mr. Speaker,
To sum it all, I believe this budget is realistic, this budget will be impactful, and this budget of hope, not renewed hope, hopefully by the end of this next year, Nigerians will be happy for it. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Point of order, sir.
Yes, Leader. Is it...
Mr. Speaker, I'm coming on personal explanation, sir.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I hope I'm protected.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to not in any way slight the submission of my honorable colleague, a brother, Honorable Sani Madaki Guinea, who has made a very wonderful presentations on the floor, and he has also commended the qualities, he has expressed the qualities embedded in the budget of Mr. President and of course of the ruling APC. But I want to raise this order because in the course of his submission, it was like he was contemplating changing the title of the budget. He does not have that powers. The powers to initiate a budget by the Constitution is from the presidential angle of the government itself. They have done that, and this budget is called Budget of Renewed Hope. What Honorable Madaki could have changed in his own capacity, and he has got nothing to do with it, is his own red cap, which he has changed conveniently. It's his own red cap, which he has done conveniently. And I congratulate him for changing his red cap.
And he has additionally changed his state from Kano to Zaria State as well.
And changed his state.
Honorable Engineer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, a lot of issues were debated on the issue of the 2024 budget as submitted by Mr. President. And I will want to commend Mr. President for giving security and agriculture priority. In fact, security having the highest allocation in the budget. I only want to use this medium to emphasize on the need to have border control, because the issue of security in this country can never be right except if the nation is able to control its borders. There is this saying by security expert that the security situation militating against the country currently is as a result of the porous borders we are having, land borders, sea borders, and what have you. So I will want to, emphasize on the need for the country to see that the borders are properly taken care of in a way that it will no longer be porous as usual. This will enable the country achieve its security set target. I will also want to commend Mr. President on his strategy on agriculture, especially on the issue of food security, where the country is now having emergency in food security. But we cannot allow the country borders on the issue of the food we produce in the country be porous. Each and every day, so many trailers of food, grains, and what have you, go throughout Nigerian borders to other neighboring countries, while our border is too tight, not allowing food to come into the country. With the event this time of very poor harvest, I think the country needs to control its borders to ensure that the little food we produce is reserved. Thank you. This is the little contribution I think I should have for the debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable colleague. Professor?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing my hands has been up for a long time. I am Honorable Professor Paul Sunday Namchi, representing the people of Enugu East, issues of federal constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, I thank Mr. President for actually nicknaming the budget of hope, because there's little hope with the common people in Nigeria today. First, I would want to also commend him on the allocation to education, but I also urge that he increases, I lend my voice to say that he increases that of education, because investing in education is investing in our nation's future. And by augmenting the education budget, we'll power our youth with the tools to excel. Not only just to excel, but to innovate and lead, because they are the future of the leaders of tomorrow. And I harden the allocation will enable improved infrastructure in the education sector, cutting-edge resources, and qualified educators. You would agree with me that a lot of people are leaving the education sector and the Yakpa syndrome by lecturers because there's that inadequate provision of things and infrastructure in the area. Which means doing this thing will ensure that every student receives a quality education. So this is not just an expenditure, but a strategic investment in the development of Nigeria. So by increasing the education budget, at least to be able to get to the required benchmark by United Nations, we will be assured of tomorrow's infrastructure and tomorrow's well-being of our leaders. But at the same vein, I also bring to you what the people of my zone have been yearning for, that the transport sector should also take care of increasing the railway from the southeast to other parts of the country, especially the northern Nigeria. This aspect of the railway has been abandoned for quite too long, even when other railways have been operational and have been improved. It is neither improved nor also done. For the southeasterners have been the people that most of their business is about commerce. And improving the railway or restating the Nigerian railway from the eastern flank, from Port Harcourt to Karo Namuda, will not only increase the revenue of the country, but it will also provide job opportunities